Hey, you're listening to Fat and Greasy Citizens, a podcast about Shakespeare. I'm Fat.
And I'm Greasy. Every week we do a deep dive into every act of every Shakespeare play ever written, mostly while drinking.
More specifically, I'm Chuck. I'm a former English major and now a digital editor who cares a lot about Shakespeare.
And I'm Gabe. Let's do it!
Hail and well met, my knuckleheads. It is us, Queen Elizabeth Prime, welcoming you to Fat and Greasy Citizens. In this episode's Act 4 and 5 of A Midsummer Night's Dream, in which this dreamy tale comes to an end. Everybody gets married and parties in the end, and that's about it. No, seriously. We famously never got married. Scholars said it was to put the security of England first, but mostly it was because I was surrounded by scrubs. So Walter Raleigh used to hang out the passenger side of his best friend's ride trying to holler at us. Tish and Pistol, that I say. Enjoy the show.
Okay. Today we are diving into both Acts 4 and 5 of Midsummer Night's Dream. And I think you knew where this was going. I was kind of rediscovering this as I go along. There's not much left to happen after Act 3. This is fun to read, but plot-wise, I think we wrapped most of it up in Act 3. And this
it's very conveniently wrapped up. Yeah. Like it just kind of ends. And what's interesting about that is that it makes Act 5 seem like a big old appendix. Like it doesn't really need to be there. It's almost like it actually reminded me of like 80s movies where it's like the big regatta or like the big event at the end, like the Catalina wine mixer. Like it's like it doesn't need to be there. It kind of is, it's just a bunch of people dicking around and then the play ends,
Right. It's like they already booked the musical act for the 80s music or for the 80s movie, and so they're like, we've got Tina Turner, so we're going to use 5 minutes of Tina Turner. So I don't know, you punch the bad guy at the end of this or something.
let's listen to Air Supply. Yeah, I mean it really is but what's interesting is that normally, like these days, if you were doing, like, for instance, the Catalina wine mixer in Step Brothers, it's like there is kind of like a some kind of special moment in it that where people grow or learn, or even in like the dumbest comedies. But in this one, it just kind of ends. Like there's no real like all of the stuff, like everybody's gonna get married, happens way before that. Like it really does seem almost like a class ridicule scene where the rich noblemen just tear apart the poor idiots for a whole act, and then the play ends.
It has no plot to it. I find it fun from an intellectual point of view to read. I think some of the stuff is funny, but it's interesting that, like, it turns out this play really is just about talking about dreams. It's actually not about these people falling in and out of love. It's not about Theseus and Hippolyta putting on a wedding. It's not Oberon and Titania getting back together. It's just about various metaphors where you can play with the dream logic. But that's fun, so fuck it. We come in at the beginning of Act 4, and Bottom seems to have like hit his stride with the fairies. He knows all their names. He knows all their names. He's telling them what he wants, and he seems to like he's really getting comfortable into his kingly role. And I feel like he's mellowed out a little bit. I find him both like discerning and like a bit demanding with the fairies, but also kind. He's like, listen, here's what I want. I want you to go and get honey from the inside of a hive, but I don't want you to get honey all over yourself. So please be careful. When people walk in, he's like, yeah, you don't have to take your hat off. It's fine. I just need two of you to scratch my beard, and that's all I need. And so, like,
he's like the celebrity. Like when you see the celebrity come back to his hometown, and like, a little boy does good, and he's just like, hey, I just like to give back. I've been there. I've been in their position, so I just like to give back to the community. That's all. Like, that's what he's doing. He's basically like, I might have mentioned this before on our podcast, but he seems to be doing John Mulaney, the comedian John Mulaney has a great bit about how Trump seems like a hobo's idea of rich and wealthy. Like if you gave like hobos like running around like my name would be in big gold letters, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it seems like Bottom is in that area where he's like, yeah, and then you can go get me honey from a bee, but you got to kill the bee. It's like all these like fantastical things that don't, like decadence, but like a poor man's decadence, like like what a poor dope would think of as being, regal.
Yeah. Or in Office Space, when the protagonist is trying to think about what he would do if he stole $1 million from the company, he's talking to his neighbor, and he's like, "What would you do with $1 million?" He's like, "What would I do? I would do 2 chicks at the same time." And like that's literally not literally, but almost literally what Bottom is, because Bottom's like, I want this fairy scratching my beard, and I want this fairy scratching my beard. So just like if both of you, yes, that's it. That's what I want. And as he gets more comfortable, my read is that he now knows that he has a donkey head. Do you think he's oblivious, or do you think he knows that he has a donkey for a head?
I don't know, because I think it works both ways, because he does make reference to the fact that he's hairier now and probably needs a haircut. I think you can play. I think you can play it both ways. That is totally aware and making jokes at his own, at his own expense, or that he still has no idea. I mean, I think both are funny. I think you can go both ways.
Yeah.
I don't think it's 100% clear in the text, but I do think you can play it both ways.
Yeah, I agree. I read it, or I would put it on as like he's starting to accept the dream as reality, and so he's just like, oh, I have a donkey for a head, that's fine. Not a whole donkey for a head, that'd be a weird image. He has a donkey's head for a head. If he had like a donkey on his shoulders and that was him, that'd be, first of all, just hard to produce.
It's a reverse centaur.
The centaur with just like smaller and smaller animals and people on each head. It'd be fantastical. But he's just settling into it, and he's like, hey, listen, I got fairy servants. I've got the fairy queen as my wife. I just eat hay now, but it's fine. It's fine. I've got a donkey's head for a head, so I'm cool with it.
That's the thing that makes me think that maybe he doesn't know, just because that like he's like, yeah, you know what would be really great is hay. Like a bunch of hay would be all pretty delicious. I don't even know why I said that, but hay is awesome, and there's definitely an obliviousness that might be funny if you just played it totally straight like that he doesn't get it,
Right. Yeah, no, I think either way could work really well. So Oberon walks in, and he kind of has a change of heart, because he feels like Titania's making an ass out of himself, but he also explains in some weird way that she gave the Indian boy back. I've been talking in each podcast episode about how well structured this is, the exception being the Indian boy subplot, which
still weird.
Aside from being problematic, it's just like everything else is set up so well, and this is just like this thing happened off screen, and on the other side of the world, we argued over a child slave. She has a child slave, and I want it back. And I still can't understand if he's saying while bewitched she gave it back, or her servant was going to give it back and he didn't know. I read it 3 times. I couldn't figure out what he's trying to say.
It's very odd. It's very odd because the situation is odd. Like we talked about these characters being godlike, or, gods. And I think it's almost like, that Greek tradition of gods being very promiscuous and weird. But like for like a one moment, Oberon is he's like has a sobering reality that this maybe has gone too far, and like he kind of like almost regretfully says, well, I got what I wanted, but now she looks ridiculous, like she's making out with this donkey head. It's like almost like the kink went too far for him or something like that. Like it just was like, oh, I didn't mean it to go this like this. And then he like feels deeply regretful, and then tries to reverse everything. So it's like, I don't know. It's like maybe a rare moment of humanity because Oberon doesn't make any sense in general,
right?
Because he's a god. But I think this might be a human moment. I don't know. It's very weird. The whole thing is very weird.
the
The
framing
Indian
of
boy thing is very weird. Like
it should never see the light of day again. But like, I think the spirit of it is very much the kink that went too far. It was just like, oh yeah, no, that seemed good, but I don't think I want that.
well, he kind of cuckled in himself. You know what
right?
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then I think he sees it now, and it's like, oh, this is humiliating for both of us now.
It's like, wait a minute, that's my wife. So I may not have planned this out entirely well.
I didn't think this through.
If she loves a donkey more than me, then that might not make me cool.
Yeah, yeah. Then who am I? Ooh, that's a good way to look at it. If she's into him, what am I?
Right.
What am I? I'm in love with an Indian boy. That's what I am. I better reverse all this. This is pathetic.
And so with no real plot driving reason, he just says, Puck, like, reverse it, and Puck reverses it. As I read it, he tells Puck to take the scalp of the donkey off. So as I read it, Puck just on stage takes the mask off of Sleeping Bottom, and then she just wakes up. Oberon starts. He breaks the spell by rhyming to her. She wakes up, and as you said before, like, does that thing where you wake up and you finish the rhyme? And then they're just, the spell of love is on them again. They're rhyming throughout the scene. He's explaining what transpired, and she's like, tell me more, as they walk off screen. It's very I don't know, borderline clip show, like, oh, and then what happened, our voices will slowly trail off as we walk off screen, and you will know that we are busy talking about this.
That got a laugh in 1992 Bangor Senior High's production of Midsummer Night's Dream. Because like the last thing she says is how I became enamored of an ass. It's a funny line. How did this happen? Well, I'll tell you, magic.
It's also interesting because so in theory, Puck has taken the drugs off her, but I think for everything that we see of how she reacts with the drugs gone, she doesn't wake up in the same fighting mood that she was before she was drugged. She wakes up in love, and she seemed like a woman of pride before this, but there's nothing in how she acts in this scene or in the next act where you think like, oh, she's going to be angry that she was drugged and made to fall in love with not only a mortal, but a mortal with a donkey for a head. It's just
right.
Like when the magic goes away, everyone's in a much more lovey-dovey mood than they were before the magic. So it almost seems like Puck doesn't take the magic away. He's just like, oh, you want me to clean things up. So I know what the boss means when he says like take the magic away. He means like clean it up. So that's what I'm going to do.
That's an interesting point. Like maybe because like when the spell is ostensibly lifted for the young lovers, even everybody's kind of chill. Like there is no reason for Demetrius to be in love with Helena once the spell is broken. Like they haven't talked,
right?
Like they wake up and he just is kind of like, this woman here, she followed me into the woods, and I see it now. It's like, you do? Well, what?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because he wakes up, he says they were betrothed, but then he got eyes for Hermione. It's like, you never mentioned that, and she never mentioned that.
Yeah, that's new information. Yeah,
she shouldn't be quite so shocked that you loved her an act ago, if in fact at some point you were betrothed. And Helena does not respond with the shock she did an act earlier that Demetrius loves her. Now it's okay for Demetrius to love her. So
yeah, she's totally into it. And what I think is also interesting is that like Theseus hears all this and he immediately says, this is perfect, young love. And he turns to Aegeus, and I actually wrote it down. He says, Aegeus, I will overbear your will. And it's like, wait a second. he hears like these four young idiots wake up and go, oh, this is so crazy. It was all a dream. And he just turns to Hermia's father and says, yeah, whatever you say is nil now.
It's great.
And the dad doesn't get to say anything else. He doesn't come back.
I think that worked for me. That worked really well to a modern ear, because before that, Aegeus is like, this son of a bitch Lysander was going to marry my daughter without my consent and without Demetrius's consent. And for him to use consent for him and this other guy, about the daughter who clearly has no consent in it was just like, oh, that's an interesting way to look at it, that your consent is being violated here. So it was nice to see Theseus be like, yeah, I don't know, these kids are cute, so I'm gonna go with it. It sounds good.
Yeah, I have heard enough.
I also like that Theseus walks in with Aegeus and sees them all sleeping, and he goes, hey, you guys, go sound my big fucking horns. Like, they're right next to them. They can just wake up. He's like, no, go get my giant fucking Grecian royal horns that are big enough to like tell everyone to start hunting across the forest, and I want to wake them up with them. So he sounds the horns, wakes them up, and then says the Shakespearean version of, so y'all been fucking in the forest?
Yeah.
It's basically like lovebirds will sometimes come together. Have you done the same? But basically he wakes them up with a fucking foghorn. It's just like, so you been fucking? I don't know.
But it's funny, before that he says something to the effect of, well, clearly they came into the woods because they heard I'd be here. And it's he's such a again,
he's
like
atrocious.
he really is kind of like, well, I mean, we're out here hunting. They heard I was here, so of course they're in the woods. So let's wake them up with a bunch of foghorns.
And throughout, he's when he hears their stories, he's like, well, I'll never believe, like, this is just young love. It's stupid. I'll never believe in this type of fairy stuff. And he's using fairy in a way that means tales, but you can just tell that, like, he's the guy that has everything according to the rational world, but he's even like Theseus is completely unaware of like the game that's actually going on. And so I like him in that he just wants to have a fun time and he lets these young lovers get together. But I think the play does a good job of setting him up as like, even the best guy you can imagine has no idea what's going on inside his own brain or what's going on after dark.
Yeah. And what I like about it is that he has no idea what's going on. And then a little later on, and we'll talk about when it comes up, but there's a moment where he seems really wise and insightful, and then immediately throws it out the window once the play starts among the fools. Like and we'll get to that in a second. But first, we have to deal with Bottom's reawakening.
So I would say Bottom's reawakening. When he wakes up and talks about his dream, it strikes me as like there's a couple times these last two acts they're roughly equivalent to Puck's wonderful soliloquy at the end. So his soliloquy at the end is saying like, hey, if this place sucks, pretend it's a dream, we're all good. He says it beautifully. Puck's I feel like Bottom says it pretty poorly here, but at the same time he's just like, oh, what the hell was that? Well, I don't know. I'll go and do what I have to do. I've got to go to get to the play and whatnot. But it feels like when I come back to the structure I love about this play is that we're laughing at how stupid Bottom is. But then the author puts the same sentiment in Puck's like brilliant voice at the end.
Yeah. It's funny. I never thought of them as sort of parallel ideas, but it's true. It's just like, because Shakespeare is such a classist pile of shit that I kid, of course. William Shakespeare, if you're listening, he like it's pretty common. Like as soon as Bottom gives his last speech in that act, it's like that classic Shakespeare like misnomer or like like I wrote it down where Bottom says, because he's talking about this dream that he just had. It says, the eye of man hath not heard, the ear of man hath not seen, man's hand is not able to taste, his tongue to conceive, nor his heart to report what my dream was. It's that classic, well, because he's an idiot, he's attributing the wrong senses to the wrong body parts.
Yeah.
But it never occurred to me that, it's the same. It's kind of the same idea. Like this whole thing was of no substance. It didn't really happen, and he can't even put into words. But what Puck says at the end is like, really nobody can, right? It's like, these dreams are inconceivable. They're not, they're not tangible things.
Yeah.
But Bottom's not capable of that thought,
Right. To put the same sentiment in the lower class person that we're all supposed to laugh at, and then put the same sentiment in the godlike person who's probably smarter than Oberon, who's actually been pulling the strings the whole time.
Yeah.
Is very fun. And what they're both doing is bailing on the idea that there's anything going on here. It's like if you were to have a dream that told you everything that you wanted in this world and like explained to you why you keep fucking up at certain things and why you have to turn light switches on and off 5 times before you leave the room or something. And if you had a dream that mapped all that out, and then your stupid rational brain is just like, well, that's a crazy dream. Let's not analyze that. Let's go and get to work on time. They seem to like saying like these things are both stupid and meaningless, and like this is your entire psyche in a nutshell if you can wrap your head around it. It's just
and I think that what you just said leads perfectly into what I think is in Act 5. Shakespeare basically lays out the thesis of his last like 4 or 5 plays that we've read, and he says it in I want to say it's Theseus, says, "The lunatic, the lover, and the poet are of imagination all compact." You know, like that's what he's been saying this whole time, is like all of this shit all together, madness and love and art is crazy. It has no rules. It's completely beyond our comprehension, you know? And it's like, he calls it out. And I actually, when I read that, I was like, oh, so he's like Shakespeare's overtly saying like, this is kind of what I'm interested in, you know? And it's like, we get it.
Yeah. And I like the fact that Theseus again is like the ideal of what you can be, is like a rich, successful, well-read, intelligent person. And from the point of view of someone like that who has maximum power in like a non-magical, non-theological, non-artistic realm, love and art seem immaterial. If you are the king of ancient Greece, then to you it seems like what the worst thing you can do is make a bad decision about love, or make a bad decision based on a dream, or make a bad decision based around emotion, because there's so many things that matter more in this world. And I really like the fact that he's a smarmy aristocratic fuck at some points, but you do think he's smart, you do think he's capable. And I just feel like it's good characterization, because from that guy's point of view, it's all meaningless. But from a completely parallel point of view, it's the stuff that matters the most of all. And we're not going to undercut that this guy's brilliant. We're just going to say that there's a whole world that he can't see and can't wrap his head around. And that's, as you say, like that's the stuff that Shakespeare is going to play around with. He's getting actors to dress up like ladies and say funny things and fall down, but at the same time, like he's understanding kings and understanding like the inside of the mind better than anyone who is alive at the same time can.
Yeah, like the layer, like just that line. I mean, thinking about that line, it's like that really is the point, right? It's like all of these things beyond our sane thought they're swirling around us all the time, and it's like the same kind of logical leaps you have to take in a play. This is something I talk to my students about all the time, like the suspension of disbelief, right? This idea of the same kind of, you know, logical omissions that you make to take in a play, the same kind of logical omissions you make when falling in love, or when or a madman does just doing anything. You know, it's like it's in that intangible space just beyond our thought. You know, there's something you know, perhaps I'm reading too much into it, but he does kind of like, he's pretty explicit, and you know, I think it's a pretty powerful line. It actually reminds me of if I may, Foucault's Madness and Civilization, where he talks about, in Shakespeare's time, the fool is often considered closer to God in a lot of ways, as a more direct line to God because of their lunacy, because of their craziness. And I think that philosophy kind of, you know, in fact, a lot of fools in Shakespeare plays talk the most reason, even though they do it in riddles. They're normally the wisest people on the stage because they're connected to something higher. And I think that Shakespeare kind of tips his hand in that direction with that line. That kind of like he kind of understands that is what he means, like that, you know, that madness and love and all this stuff is a higher thing, that we're connected to a higher thing. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think in a modern production, you can lean into the fact that Theseus is full of shit, because right after that he says something good and racist again.
Oh yeah. No,
it's literally 2 lines after he says this beautiful thing that sums up everything, and then he's just like, love could even make you fall in love with someone from the Nile.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, but his audience literally knows about Cleopatra and Mark Antony, so like that doesn't even make sense. Like,
yeah.
Unless you're just saying that, like, are you supposed to be saying that Theseus is like foreseeing how stupid Anthony is? Not Mark Antony, just Anthony. Get my plates mixed up already. But how stupid Anthony is is that supposed to be Theseus, the brilliant ancient Greek leader, foreseeing how foolish a different Mediterranean leader is for falling in love with someone from Egypt? I don't know, but it's just weird to go from like that high-minded speech to just straight up racist. Man, you could be so stupid with love, you would fall in love with someone from a different race, and wouldn't you look like a dumb?
Well, it kind of
Theseus.
like, it's like if somebody said something really profound, but like as an example of that, like as an example of the profound thing, his example was something atrocious. It's
imagine,
like, you know what I mean?
Imagine you go to a party and you meet, like, you fall into just this really interesting conversation with this person, and they're talking to you and explaining like all the ways that like what's really going on with the economy right now, and they were just like, yeah, and listen, if you like look at everything that's gone wrong since we integrated schools. Like, wait, what? Whoa. You're smarter than me, but I want you to run that by me again.
It's actually very unnerving when people who are very intelligent come off as racist or bigoted. It's like, because like, you know, you equate bigotry and all, you know, and racism with ignorance, but like if it just slips in there, all of a sudden you're like, my world is shattered. You know, like all of a sudden it's like, wait a second. You know, you read like H.P. Lovecraft and what a horrible human being he was. You know, you're like, Jesus Christ. It's like,
H.P. Lovecraft's like horrible books that show the truth to drive your brain insane is just a black guy and a white woman making out.
That's all.
That's what his protagonist.
The unspeakable truth of existence was just biracial relationships.
And he ran screaming.
The tentacles. That wasn't a tentacle, sir.
My God.
That's one of the funniest things I think that anybody's ever said. The big cosmic dread was just biracial.
They were going to do what's his name? Benicio del Toro was going to do The Mountains of Madness in like a big production. Didn't get it, but you could do it. And then you could just edit it when they look at the great books, and it's just like just some Larry Flint porno scene. Just like, oh, sweet.
That's Sidney Poitier kissing a white woman.
It's just,
I don't like this.
Get it away! No.
the sleeping god has awoken. But so Theseus is obviously problematic, but like they get on, they want to start the party, and before at the beginning of the play I said Philostrate probably has the best gig in the whole play, and I'm doubly right now because he's got some of the best lines ever. As soon as he comes back, he's just like the event planner, really.
Yeah.
And he comes back in, and believe me, all I could think of was Billy Eichner for some reason. Like Billy Eichner should play.
That would be really good.
Philostrate.
Oh
but
God,
he's got...
no! Please, no, no, Your Majesty, no.
like the list of like acts that are there. First of all, sound way better than the play. Like they're all like the horrible battle of such and such. And like Theseus throws them aside for various reasons. Like, oh, that's old. We just heard that one. Oh, I just told that one to Hippolyta. No. And then like,
yeah, go ahead.
Philostrate says, because it says something like the tedious and short play of Pyramus and Thisbe. And when asked why, Philostrate says, "A play there is, my lord, some 10 words long, which is as brief as I have known a play, but by 10 words, my lord, it is too long, which makes it tedious." he has like a series of lines like that are awesome.
Yeah, his when he describes the players, he describes them as hard-handed men which never labored in their minds till now, and it's just like that's solid. And also, like, again, Theseus is unlikable, but I like you can give Philostrate the man credit for the descriptions of the roles, or Theseus having fun reading them, but these are good jokes, the names of these plays.
Oh yeah, they're great.
I just want to read them out loud. The battle with the centaurs, to be sung by an Athenian eunuch to the harp. That's like, if you get Michael Palin in biggest dickus mode to just read these one at a time, and it's fantastic. Second, the riot of the tipsy bacchanals tearing the Thracian singer in their rage. The riot of drunken bacchanals who tear apart a singer. They literally tear apart a singer. The thrice three muses, which is just great. The thrice three muses mourning for the death of learning, late deceased in beggary. Which just in its pedanticness, it's just like, this whole play is about people are so dumb. No one has any respect for how smart screenwriters are. So I'm going to write a play about how smart screenwriters are, and it's going to be great. And then, yes, a tedious brief scene of young Pyramus, a very tragical mirth.
That's like if just before they just before it was like, here's a movie by Charlie Kaufman, and the Theseus is like, ugh. And then the next one is like, and here's a Farrelly Brothers movie. He's like, yeah, let's do that one. That sounds great.
Tragical mirth is very much a Farrelly Brothers movie. That's Shallow Hal. So let's see. So they so he says he wants to play. They kick it off. The prologue also reminds me of the Puck soliloquy, and that what the prologue is doing is saying, like, anything that happens, sorry, it's just a play. It's just a play, and it's Quince going through it, as we said either last time or the time before. Like, Quince has been fully sucked into stupidity at some point. At some point, he seems smart, but at this point, he goes through the super dumb prologue. I really enjoy Wall declaring he is a wall. That's just a joke that carries. That makes it through. The Richies doing the Statler and Waldorf routine. I think
the whole time they're so shitty.
Sucks. It generally sucks, but the interactions with the actors works. The thing. That's the beauty of it. Is like, I think Moonshine, right? Moonshine gets the hardest. It gets the hardest hit, and then like at one point he's like, "Look, all I wanted to do is come out and say I was Moonshine, and this dog is my dog." That's it. Like, he gets really frustrated. This dog is my dog. They cut off. Is it Moonshine or someone else? They cut him off, and he has to keep saying it again. It's Moon. Moon says his line, and then they make fun of him, and he says his line again. And then the lion comes on, and he explains he's a lion to the ladies, and then he does his thing. And then they start making fun of him, and he chimes into them. He's like, "No, let me clarify. Here's what's going to happen next." Like, it's a really good shit show. Shakespeare gets in one more solid joke about kissing an asshole.
Yep,
always good. He's like, "I will kiss the wall's hole."
The whole kissing through the chink scene is like riddled with. All I can kiss is the ass. Is the hole. Like, at one point, it's like, come on, man. Like,
I will kiss the wall's hole.
All I'm getting is hole here. Is basically
very romantic.
What Pyramus says.
Put your lips to the hole. This is a tragic love story. The one part of the Statler and Waldorf routine that I liked was, I feel like Theseus goes full Don Rickles, because he turns to one of the guys and he's like, that was some acting. That plus the death of your dear friend, like someone said. It's just like, That's a pretty good one, Theseus. Okay. Like,
these bunch of these hockey pucks. That I think it's either Lysander or Demetrius. Once the wall leaves, says something like, "That's the wittiest partition I've ever seen." And it's like they're really like throwing in like the old timey zingers the whole way through.
No,
But what's funny about that is that it was preceded by Theseus saying something like, before they come out, like Hippolytus says something like, "Hey, Philostrate just said they're not good at this." And Theseus says something like, "Oh, well, hold on. We can have a little fun, but hey, sometimes, I'm a man of the world and I've been around and I know when people come up and they're nervous to meet me, I still get it. I'm still, he seems like he's doing almost like he's going to be a good guy about it." And then as soon as they start, they fucking rip him apart the whole way through.
No,
They're
you're
like,
right.
"This stinks."
I completely missed that because he's just like, the more they stink, the kinder we are for being kind to them. And they walk out, and from the get-go, it's just like, boo, you poor bastards.
You are atrocious.
And and just literally at the beginning of that scene, they have each of the players bemoaning the fact, not that they won't do the play, but that Bottom won't be there, so he'll miss out on 4 pence. He'll miss out on 4 pence, and these rich bastards just are throwing tomatoes at him.
What's also about that is like because the way they talk about Bottom, the other guys, like, oh, he's the only person who could say these lines or play Pyramus. I thought in my head, like, I was like, I bet that's how friends of Dane Cook talk about Dane Cook. Like, they're like, oh, only him, man. He's the best. He's the king. And he stinks. Like everybody else.
Come on. Who else could do it, you asshole? There's no
who else could do the super finger? No, but it's
funny.
like
my brain went to the super finger as well. I don't know how.
Well, you have to. That's branding. They spent a lot of money on that. But I love that it really, like, this is one of the first plays of his. Well, I'm trying to think of another play of his that ends like this, where it's just like this. It's like Caddyshack. It's like this huge.
Oh my, yeah, no, it is, where it's just
thing
like,
at the end where it's like everybody's having a good time. It's like, it's craziness.
Like, it is. It's like Rodney Dangerfield and Bill Murray have more jokes. Do you want us to stop filming?
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
Like,
that's what it is.
10 more minutes of these two in their prime. We'll just keep the camera running. Like,
yeah, it turns into Mystery Science Theater at the end, where it's like we're just gonna make fun of this shitty play for the rest of the show, and then Puck comes on and says, "That was crazy, right? This is all a dream. Good night." Like, it really is. Like, it's amazing. Like, I don't think I've seen anything like it, where the characters don't necessarily grow or learn anything new. Like, yes, the young lovers are in love with who they're supposed to be.
no, you're right. Like, Helena doesn't realize, like, Helena never, no point says, like, oh, nothing happens to Helena where she can accept love. Hermia was literally ready to claw her eyes out an act earlier, and that's just gone. Hermia was worried about Lysander throughout. He abandoned her. She slept alone in the woods, not knowing. Last time we saw Helena, she was talking about killing herself.
Yeah.
And then the magic is taken off and she's happy. It's bizarre that it works so well, because by constantly executing well in the storytelling and saying, like, this feels dreamlike, I don't need the logic to work. I'm just like, oh, the spell is broken, and so I don't care anymore. And I don't think if that happens in a later play where it's just like, oh, those first 3 acts, that was magic.
Yeah.
Now we're going to tell some jokes. I'd be like, what the fuck is this? This isn't a play.
And all of a sudden, Kenny Loggins is playing in the background.
Fucking
doesn't make any sense. I'm all right.
And really quickly, 2 more things that I love from the play within a play. So I feel like much of this last act is about breaking on stage. Like,
oh yeah,
again, Puck's soliloquy is about breaking on stage, but I love the fact that as Pyramus dies, he says, "This die I, thus die I, thus. Now I am dead," and soliloquizes for like 2 more lines. Like, it's just wonderful to just announce you're dead and have 3 more lines. And then when once his lover finds him, she screams out for other people to wail at his death. She screams, "Lovers make moan," which again I just like lovers across the world make moan for this sad day. It's well done trash writing.
It really is. In fact, I remember in high school the guy who played Thisbe, who is what, Snug? No, can't remember.
I think you want to be Snug.
It was a Snug who plays Thisbe. Well, whatever. He was a big fella. So obviously the comedy is in the fact that he, a big fella wearing lipstick or whatever. And like something one of the lines is something like something about my love, and then what dead my dove. And he couldn't make it through. Like that line was always the line. Like he couldn't make it through that line without laughing, because it's hilarious. Like, considering that at the time all of these guys on stage would have been men. Like every character would have been men. It's just a funny scene. Like the more you think about a bunch of dudes putting on a terrible play between two lovers, that's so ham-fistedly written like this. It's funny. It really is. And some of the wording, like "Dead My Dove" is one of them. There's one before. Well, something. Oh man, I'm trying to think of the ones that really made us laugh. It escapes me. Dead My Dove was one of them. I can't think of the other ones. They're all throughout that.
She like him when she dies. She says, "Thus Thisbe ends, adieu, adieu, adieu." And again, I just like dead people talking on the "This is Caddyshack" beat. I don't know if you noticed, but towards the end, Theseus says, "Oh, that was fun. Y'all go to bed. We're gonna do this for a fortnight." So he's just planning to have drunken revels for 40 days. Like, he is Ryan Dangerfield just being like, "We're all getting laid." Like, it was just these are not the most important people getting married in ancient Greece, but it's just like, what weddings? What are you going to do? I guess we have to just watch bad plays and drink every night for 40 days. So Philostrate, get on it. You got 39 more days of plays to come up with.
Philostrate, played by Jack Benny. He just puts his fingers gingerly to his chin and just shakes his head at the audience. While Theseus, played by Rodney Dangerfield.
I think Philostrate is actually on the edge of the stage saying, $20 as the Smales kid picks his nose. So one of the things in the execution that I think allows me to come along with the play and not worry about the weird plotting is that, so they all walk off stage happily, and then before Oberon and everyone comes on and does a fun little dance to say we're all happy people, Puck has this good creepy soliloquy before his last soliloquy, but it's not about the magical dreamscape. It's about spirits walking out of graves. He has imagery about an owl wrapping up its victim in a shroud. It's creepy stuff. And so he says this is what's happening, and you'll never know what's happening in the dreamscape. It's much more, I wouldn't say Freddy Krueger, but like if you think about like what's supposed to happen in like Sandman, or like it's like Tim Burton-esque. It's not we're gonna murder you, but it's like you don't know what the hell happens at night type stuff. And then Oberon and everyone comes on, does a big dance, and Oberon leaves him to say his last soliloquy. And his last soliloquy is like, "Don't worry about it. If you didn't like this is just a dream. Just imagine this never happened. It's fine." And I think it's beautiful for him to have had this really creepy thing where he's saying like, there's the dead are walking. You are much closer to an owl wrapping up its victim alive in a sarcophagus than anything else. And then at the end, like I was saying before, at the end he's like, "But dreams are nothing. Don't worry about it. So it's fine. Don't worry about this stuff happening out here. You'll never know we're out here. So go about your business, humans. There's nothing to worry about." And it's wonderful in that like it works, and like you can dismiss it, or it's like it's like he's I view that second to last soliloquy as almost like being Lovecraftian. Like he's saying, like, "Oh no, you live on the back of a giant beast, and if the beast ever wakes up, he'll eat you all." Oh, here's Dancing Oberon. He's
Yeah.
the one in charge. He's the one that knows. He knows that it's all actually a fun time. Like it's what we really do is just like make people fall in love. You're the smart one, Oberon. Come on in. And then he's left alone.
I think that would be amazing. Well, you mentioned before that Puck is probably smarter than Oberon, and I think it's probably because Puck dances on that border between nightmare and dream. You know, like because I mean we meet him in the beginning he says that he's a mischief maker, that he causes nightmares. You know, like he's you know, the shit he describes in his first monologue, you know, he does a lot of crazy, dumb, like weird things to people. And it's not to make anybody laugh. It's like a horror show, you know? So like the idea of his having a moment of saying like, it all ain't dreams, folks, you know, I think is totally on character. I think that makes sense, you know. And then at the very end, kind of like a final warning, you know, like, yeah, applaud and I won't kill you, you know. I kind of applaud and I won't haunt your dreams.
It's almost like if you had a Freddy Krueger movie and then Robert Englund without dripping face paint came on and gave a performance that like most of the audience would be like, oh, that's actually reassuring, and you were just like tearing your hair out, you'd be like, he's the guy that pulls you into the mattress. Why are you, just because it has a typical act structure of a Hollywood movie, you're accepting this? Like, mattress you.
It's a hell of a journey, this play. It really is. And as much as we think that the fifth act is somewhat incongruous, like the more we talk about it here, it makes perfect sense. Like it's to sort of button up this dreamscape, you know, why not have an act that completely is almost irrelevant in a lot of ways, you know?
Yeah, and whereas the shitty treatment of women and lower class people in the earlier plays borderline ruins it, like Helena and Hermia get no lines after they say that was a weird dream, huh? They are married off screen. They walk back on with their husbands, but they have no lines. The shitty treatment of the people on stage, like it doesn't bother me very much at all, just because I feel like that's not what the play is about. And whereas in other plays, like it seems to think that like Two Gentlemen of Verona seems to think that it's about love. Taming of the Shrew seems to think it's about men and women. Since this one isn't about those things, I'm just like, okay, well, I would have liked to have seen more screen time for an interesting character like Helena, but whatever. Let's get to the crazy Puck guy.
Yeah, it definitely. I don't know. Like the more you think about the idea of dreams and nightmares and like that sort of balancing between the two, like I could easily see the whole fifth act being framed as Hermia and Helena's nightmare. You know, that they're now trapped in a wordless, you know, like in a realm in which they have no say or what do you call it?
Agency.
Agency. Agency. Yeah, like that. Maybe that's what it is. You know, like again, that may be giving Shakespeare too much credit for his time, but still, like,
yeah. Or they could be trapped in one of the men's dream. They could be trapped in Lysander's dream or Demetrius's dream, and just like that's what they want. They want these women to be compliant, or they could be. They were both. Yeah, because essentially, like, Hermia took a huge risk to abandon her father and run off into the woods to elope. Helena essentially thinks she's going to die. She's so sad. And then, like, they're just kind of erased after that. And so you could, yeah, I completely agree. You could produce all of these as just things that you could highlight the fact that they have no words, because they're just... I mean, in fact, since they have no words in producing it, you could show them like sleeping fitfully and like some other version of them walking next to the men or something, and they're like unable to speak.
You could easily do that. Like there's, the more you think about it, yeah. What's the message of the story? Like as soon as they're paired off, they become speechless. There's a lot in that maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's an oversight on Shakespeare's part, or
I mean, that sounds atrocious to get married, after which you have 40 days of your new husband chuckle fucking it up with the king, making shitty jokes at poor people's expense. Yeah. It sounds like something out of Game of Thrones. I feel like that's basically the arc of what's her face, the redheaded Stark, where it's just like, I'm gonna get what I want. It's just like,
Sansa, yeah.
These people are terrible, and they just throw things at poor people all day and murder them when they don't laugh.
I don't like it. Yeah, she got hers. She got her revenge though. Did Sansa. Kind of.
Midsummer, 5 out of 5 stars. Would recommend.
Would recommend. Just that fifth act is a heck of a roller coaster.
So according to my book, we have Love's Labor Lost yet, which I know nothing about.
I have never read it, so this is going to be a good one.
I'm looking at the names right now, and they ring no bells, so I'm going to say flat-footed. I hope Love's Labor is not entirely lost. That'd be a shame.
This couples nicely with Paradise Lost.
It would just be great if just like he couldn't figure out the plot, and so at the end he was just like, well, Johnny, I think in this particular case, Love's Labor has been lost. No one's paired up. I think this play was a waste of time.
'Tis pity Love's Labor is lost. Da, da, da. Big Hollywood finish. Da.
Folks, I think I had it with this last dream one. I didn't have it here, so let's call it a sophomore slump. I'm going to bring it back. I swear to God, I can do it again. I'm just saying I don't think this one's going to be put on stage a lot 400 years from now. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like when the stinkers are coming, when it's like Love's Labor is lost. I don't remember this one.
I don't remember anyone ever mentioning that. I don't think I've seen that on a magnet before. I don't
even think my English teacher mentioned that, and she mentioned everything.
Are you sure that sounds like a dime store sexy book? You sure that's Shakespeare? Love's Labor Lost?
It does. It actually
like a bodice ripper. Is that where she's facing her breast towards the front of the book and he's got the six pack? No, that's.
It's vaguely sounds Jane Austen-y, like it's like a little like, oh, rather.
Just looking out on dewy fields, utterly oblivious to how rich he is. She's like, oh, once again, Love's Labor lost.
I'll never love Mr. Jenkins.
Oh, Wesley.
though he does court me so.
Tell Mr. Jenkins his labor of love is lost.
Good day, sir. Slams door. You're not supposed to say that. Oh, I'm sorry. I've slammed the door.
How can I find love? I'm the second-born daughter. There's nothing for me in British society. No one has ever explored the depths of the second-born daughter. That must fall to a new generation of writers.
Samuel L. Jackson is the love interest.
It's Jane Austen.
Bitch!
We haven't cast anyone as Samuel L. Jackson yet, which
no.
And we won't for Othello. I don't think that's the real word.
No, although that would be hilarious. Othello doesn't have as much personality as he probably should, so I don't think.
No, I think he should be an Iago. He'd be a good Iago.
Oh my God, that would be awesome, and would be great. Like have so many connotations throughout the whole.
Yeah, I wonder if Iago is a person of color, if it works. Does Iago say racist things to other people?
His main gripe is that this black man was given a promotion over him. So like I think he has to be white.
Yeah. That would fuck up the subtext pretty well.
I don't understand his problem. He's black too.
Seems like listen, no one wants to be passed over, but this particular thing doesn't seem to apply to Samuel L. Jackson in this case.
Theseus has a Don Jr. Vibe when he comes into Act 4. Kind of like, I've got these kick-ass dogs.
Well, I like those
When I go hunting, I got these kick-ass dogs. You should totally check out my dogs.
Well, I think it works on both levels because he's talking about his dogs, but at the same time, so Oberon and Titania they're rhyming together. They're under the spell of love, and he walks in and he talks about how his dogs start barking in the morning, and so I think it's a good way to show that like morning has come, things are over. It's stupid that Hippolyta is like, those are the best dogs I've ever heard. I heard Hercules' dogs, and your dogs are better than him. He's like, oh yeah, I got these dogs from Athens. Great. But still, something about dogs barking in the morning strikes me as the antithesis of like the magic that can happen at night. Like, I don't know. There's something primal about it where I'm just like, okay, what's the antithesis of like fairies running around at night? Bunch of hunting dogs barking in the morning. I don't know.
Well, maybe that just speaks to Theseus being such a shitty character where he kind of doesn't understand like what is like what sounds beautiful.
It is like if you segued from a scene where like Cap and Thor are talking about how they defeated Ultron to a guy talking about his car. It's just like, it's a nice car, dude. But like, if Oberon and Titania walk off stage and you're talking about where you got your dogs from, then
let me see. Where did I get those dogs? That was Athens, I think. Yeah, good breeder.
Oh no, there's Spartan dogs, I think. Just like.
Meanwhile,
those are Spartan dogs. Those are the best dogs. She's like, yeah, when they bark, it echoes across the canyon. It's like, yeah, everyone can hear my dogs. They've got heads like bells. Like,
that's why I feel like Hippolyta should be straight up sarcastic the whole time.
Yes,
because it makes no sense. Like other than the fact that there was a conquest that he basically took her in. There's no reason for them to be together. So like the idea of her going, yeah, your dogs are great. I've heard Hercules' dogs, and these dogs are way better.
I love that. Yeah, they're like bells. I got them from Sparta. They're pretty great. Yeah, that'd be great because you could segue right from that to him just shutting down Aegeus about his complaints. He's like, "Oh yeah, no man, I like these." No, the Don Jr. vibe definitely works. He can sniff a little bit and rub his nose. Those dogs. Oh, look, people fucking in the woods. Cool. Go check them out.
Let me change the subject. People fucking in the woods.
What if we got like really loud horns to wake them up and I asked them why they were fucking?
That would be the perfect
daughter. Yeah, I know, it's your daughter. Let's go see what's happening.
Oh, is it your daughter?
These idiots. People love her stupid, right, honey?
High five, honey.
Man, that's why I got you to marry me by beating you in combat. Because love's stupid, right, honey?
By pure coercion.
Talk about my dogs more. Thank you for highlighting. I was way too high-minded with that. I like it just much more him being a stupid.
Say I have the best dogs. Say it. Say it out loud.
Oh yeah, more and more people are saying my dogs.
Everybody's saying
better.
it.
Oh yeah,
everybody's saying it.
No one's never heard dogs bark like that before.
You've never heard a dog bark like this. I've never heard a dog bark like this.
It echoes across the game. You can hear it from everywhere. It's amazing.
People are saying.
People say to me, where'd you get those dogs? And I tell them, from Sparta. Paula's just, and every scene she's just making the jack off motion, just endless jack off motion. 5 acts of jack off motion from Hippolyta.
She's like, everybody said that, did they? Everybody fucking hates you, Theseus.
I just wish I was back
Jr.
I just wish I was back on Lesbian Island. I was sure I could kick your ass. Yeah, you could produce it and just put in a flashback to them like having their fight and her like kicking his ass, but then somehow tripping or something, and he wins. He's just like,
some ridiculous thing.
Knew I'd win. You're mine now. That's how you do marriage on Sex Island, right? It's the island of Amazonia. Yeah, that's what I said. So let's go, babe.
Yeah, Rug Muncher Island. Am I right? No, No, you're not, sir.
Yeah, well, then why'd I win? I'll never be able to explain it to myself. I'll spend the rest of my undying life wondering why the gods hate me so, because that made no sense. Undoubtedly, someone up above decided to do that Zeus thing where you tip over an action figure and someone fucks up on the field, because there's no reason you would have won this. So that's a good question, Theseus. I don't know why you beat me. I think because Zeus likes his son for some fucking reason. I can't remember.
I'm glad you said the action figure thing. It always brings me back to Clash of the Titans.
That's what it's because I was about to say Burgess Meredith knocked over something, but no, Burgess Meredith is immortal, so I can't remember who plays Zeus.
It was Laurence Olivier, if you can believe it.
That's right.
Yeah, he was. I think that was one of his last roles, maybe. But he, the great Zeus, played by the great Larry Oliver, as my high school physics teacher used to call him. To no laughter, by the way.
Joke landed wonderfully. I love a teacher who tells jokes like that just for himself.
Like, yeah.
Nothing. It's just like it's like a comedian who's just like, oh man, I'm gonna go out and kill. I'm gonna go out there and just die, and I'm gonna love it. I'm just gonna be like, I know this joke's good, so you don't get it. Fuck you.
Well, that's the thing, is that he knew the jokes were good, kind of, but
yeah.
He had no like timing or sense of, like he talked very fast and he say things like, I went to college, I was part of a frat called Tapakega Day, and he would like rattle them off, and he's like, you got to slow down, man, and like let us hear the punchline, because I did not hear that. I heard it and I chuckled, but these people, you got to slow down. This is ninth grade. You have.
We remember the ninth grade. Spots on the face, awkward exchanges with boys. Oh, and our burn book. So much fun, especially because we had the people in the book literally burned. Just kidding. We never had a ninth grade. Fat and Greasy Citizens is presented by the players Chuck and Gabe. Theme music, A Robust Crew by Darren Curtis. Next week, The Merchant of Venice. And for me, The Purchase of Lettuce. You see? It's good. That one's good. Why am I stewing all of a sudden? Goodbye.